Now, us watch enthusiasts are a pretty funny bunch. You're gonna be hard pressed to find another group of people that are as passionate about their interest. Yet what is interesting is how there are multiple ways people developed and act out this passion uniquely. So in this video, we are going to look at 9 different types of watch collectors you will commonly see. Now this video is intended to be more of a lighthearted and playful video, and I certainly will find myself falling into some of these categories as well. However, I think it is important to always stay grounded and to not take yourself too seriously. So that's why I wanted to go forward with this video and talk about it. And it is interesting to see the different methodology, thought process around certain collectors and why we decide to collect. So as much as this is about having some fun, this is also probably some deep truth rooted in a lot of this. So the first type of collector is the single brand enthusiast. This is your fanboy, your fangirl. Now this person can't imagine collecting anything else outside of a single brand and will have an extreme affinity towards one compared to others in the industry. Sometimes we will see this go so far where a brand or a watch becomes part of their personality. For example, Rolex buyers who obsess over the details of a vintage Submariner or vintage Submariners and can't stop collecting Steel Sports Rolex. Or Seiko owners that have made it a requirement to buy nearly every Seiko 5 or know Seiko nicknames but forget family member birthdays regularly. You have Paneristas that will develop meetup groups and build lifelong friendships where they impressively can call off PAM reference numbers and will interact on outdated forum sites. For number 2, we have the trader/flipper. So the word flipper is commonly a term affiliated with those that buy a watch at retail and then trade it for more money. However, I would argue that these people are often not even enthusiasts, but are more just people looking to make a buck. Another meaning for the term that I see quite often are people who simply fall out of love with watches regularly and always need to be on the hunt for something new. You will most likely find them in buy-sell trade groups on Facebook or other places, and will get past the company firewall at work in order to check on it during their workday. It is also very likely that they've owned the same type of watch multiple times. After purchasing a watch out of impulse, they justify their purchase for a while, and then they will admit they no longer love the watch and will move on abruptly. They will show up at watch meetups with something new on their wrist every single time, in the process seeing if there is a suitor for a trade for one of their pieces for another. Some people in this category obviously will mature and start to identify their subjective taste enough where they can tone down this buying and selling over the years. So as we're going through this list, I'd like to have you guys kind of participate a bit. If you have another type of collector you see often in, say, groups, collector forums, anything of the sort, or somebody you know personally, leave a comment down below. I think this is just kind of an interesting way to analyze how us as watch collectors tend to have these personality types and how we collect. Also, speaking of passionate followings around a single brand, we have some great new launches from Seiko on TeddyBaldassarre.com. First is the Seiko 5 Super Cub models infusing Honda's design DNA into an attainable package. Certainly more out there, but unlike any other Seiko 5 currently available. Another model family that I don't know many people know exists is the 34mm smaller cocktail times. This takes the familiar cocktail time design and making it available in a smaller case format. There are also a variety of limited edition Seiko 5s out right now that once they're gone, they are gone forever. And finally, the new Seiko 5 Field GMTs. This is the SSK023 and the SSK025. I am absolutely hyped about these. I think these are going to be massive for Seiko this year and probably are already going to be maybe the release of the year, and we are just in January. It extends out what was made possible with the 4R34 movement, now making its way onto a steel bezel at prices that are very hard to beat, actually retailing less than the bicolor SSK GMTs we've been seeing the last couple of years. Check out the full assortment in the description down below. So our third type of collector is the tool watches are still real individual. And I don't know if we want to argue about that concept here in this video, but really what I'm speaking to here are the types of collectors that love brands like Zinn, Fortis, Mula, Marathon, Tudor, G-Shock, Seiko, Vostok, and others for their utilitarian roots. They will argue with anyone that disputes the idea that a watch no longer is a tool and will find ways to justify their collecting by trying their best to use their pieces for their, quote, intended purpose. They remember the good old days when watches were required to tell time, smartphones weren't a thing, and will attempt to rationalize purchases even more because of the utility argument, despite the fact that the same utility can be achieved by other means, needs and is also only going to be useful in rare circumstances. I'm definitely guilty of this as well. When they post their watches on Instagram or in a group somewhere, you might commonly find the watch thoughtfully positioned next to one of their many collected knives, and you might also find that they're into watching bushcraft videos to decompress. Number 4 is the collector that is a spectrum, and I think there's a little of this in all of us, and that is the value buyer. Now, these collectors can be identified in a couple of different ways. More universally, this person is a disciplined individual that has an established budget or has a set criteria that they will never work outside of. Although this cannot be isolated to just one price point, it is most often seen in the sub $500 category. Loves brands like Seiko, G-Shock, Citizen, and knows more about random micro brands than the average enthusiast knows about Rolex somehow. The rationale about not spending a certain amount for a single watch makes sense. Unfortunately, many will often contradict their adamant beliefs by simply buying more watches than they would otherwise, given the purchases are being done in smaller chunks. They have stated in many conversations, quote, "This one punches way above its weight." Next up, we have the asset/investor collector. This is a polarizing type of collector among enthusiasts who are strongly influenced by value retention or value increase for their watches they collect. They tend to still have an interest in watches, but the importance of asset appreciation is higher on their list given the amount of money they spend. They tend to just go for more hyped watches as a byproduct of their secondary market trading values, and will actively look at auction houses to see what is going on with the marketplace and what is trending at the moment. They most likely have a safety deposit box or a safe for their pieces and will be afraid to wear many of them, equating scratches to dollars lost rather than experiences lived. Given their interest in watches that can appreciate in value, they will neglect a large part of the industry by default. And there's also generally, for all of these, going to be different levels of intensity for the type of collector, but that is especially true here. For our 6th type of collector, we have the minimalist. This is the individual that will take all of their money or a good portion of it to buy the best watch they can and will never wear anything else, or has a small, ultra curated collection. Their collection is usually pretty simple, however you appreciate them because the logic behind it is admirable, and secretly you wish you were as disciplined enough as them to do it too. They regularly fall into 2 camps, either are only concerned with the watch or watches they own in all of its variations, or somehow know more about other people's watches than their owners and is a student of the game, yet has learned to appreciate from afar without necessarily needing to own. The 7th collector type is the vintage fanatic. These types of collectors are deeply passionate and take a historical approach to their collecting journey. They find great joy in acquiring a well-conditioned example of a watch and will strongly argue that modern watches just don't have the character of those produced years prior. And although they certainly have a point, you can't help but chuckle as they take off their watch each time they wash their hands. They usually have exquisite taste that is often beyond what they can afford, but they are a great friend to have and also consult with before you go down the rabbit hole of vintage for the first time. This person is a romantic, and before they found their love for watches, subconsciously would think all the time that they were born in the wrong generation. Next, we have the obsessive over independence. This type of collector no longer can get joy from going after things that everybody knows about and has opted for either going for smaller upstart brands or luxury independence depending on their available budget and taste. For those in the micro brand sphere, they love seeing something new and have pre-ordered or funded several different brand initial launches. They will also strongly argue how many of these brands produces a much more value-packed product compared to the big players, which in many instances they have a strong case for. They also might conveniently plan a family vacation to a city where there also happens to be a watch fair going on at the same time, and will act clueless when their family soon catches on to their ruse. Also within this category is the high-end independent lover that will always be clued in to the next watchmaker on the rise, even if their productions are less than 10 units a year. They joined the Mad 1 lottery as soon as it became available. They might have a framed picture of George Daniels or Philippe Dufour on their mantle, or have an aggressively zoomed in guilloche dial shot or tourbillon as their social media profile picture. Their enthusiasm is unquestionable, and they're always a fun person to grab a drink with. And for our final type of collector, we have the Enthusiast Starter Pack. This collector is almost a rite of passage to the world of watch collecting, and one that we have all experienced to varying degrees. They will tend to collect enthusiast favorite watches as a way of earning their stripes and trying to belong to the group. They recently acquired a Seiko SKX from a third-party reseller, since they have gotten the impression that you can't be a watch collector unless you own one. They quickly acquire watches in the early weeks and months of their collecting, and eventually come to realize that they don't actually like any of them, and they were buying based solely on somebody else's taste and not their own. Most ultimately find peace with this and will learn from their mistakes and develop their own taste in the end. But all right, guys, those are 9 different types of watch collectors that I have identified. Although we're doing a little bit of stereotyping here, it's all in good fun. I am certainly a member of a couple of these different categories, so all fair play. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you can think of another type of collector, leave a comment down below and kind of describe them a bit. Also, if you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. We are closing in on 1 million subscribers, so would appreciate any help in getting us there. Also, check out TeddyBaldassarre.com, full authorized dealer of 30 brands, quick and fast fulfillment, dedicated customer support, and a full factory warranty for all the products that we offer. But guys, thank you again so much for watching. Be well, and I will see you all very soon.